Welcome to the Hospitality Maverick podcast with me, Michael Tingsar. We at Hospitality Mavericks are here to inspire leaders to create hot-selling and profitable businesses from the inside out, the kind that both employees and customers love and support. Thanks to BizSimply for sponsoring this episode as our show partner, and BizSimply is the all-in-one HR, workforce management, rota and operations software designed and built by hospitality experts to make every shift run like clockwork. And we join forces to help the industry to find new ways to become even more innovative in how we lead our people, how we operate, to how we grow our businesses, to how we serve our customers. Together we want to share strategies and tools that can make the industry thrive long term, not just survive.
I think on the influencer side, there's a bit of an education piece, but we also want to shine a light on what they do. Like, they are, at the end of the day, in full-time work, and their spare time is taken up by being their own social media managers. You know, they're really spending a lot of time on engaging with other accounts and growing their own account. They know the algorithms, they know the trends, they know which audio track and what kind of like is working well on Instagram and TikTok. So really they need to be considered as an extension of a marketing team for hospitality businesses.
This is Michael Radley. He's the co-founder of Nibble, the influencer marketing app for hospitality. I've known Michael since his days at TrialApp, and it's been great to follow him and the team on this new entrepreneurial journey. Today, we take a deep dive into what influencer marketing is and how powerful it can be for hospitality brands when you get it right. Michael shares his own journey as an influencer before launching Nibble and how they have taken these learnings to make things easier both for the brand and the influencer when it comes to connecting with each other and achieving results that makes the brand and the influencer happy. He demystifies what the role of an influencer is and how you as a brand can approach this better. Michael shares his learnings and workings with a number of progressive hospitality brands like TOS, Iberica, Iceland Poke, Humble Crumble, and many others. Lastly, we talk about his own entrepreneurial journey and how you adapt to becoming a co-founder and how he keeps himself in the impact zone. Before you tune in, don't miss out on your free copy of the white paper, 6 Tenets of Agile Hospitality we created together with BizSimply. 6 tenets every leader needs to survive and thrive in the new era of hospitality. Click in the link in the show notes and get your free copy today. Now, grab your notebook and enjoy. Today, we are going to be talking about something. When I started this podcast, I actually didn't think that would be something I would be talking about when it's connected with hospitality, restaurants, even having somebody as a guest on the show talking about this. It's talking about influencers, because in my view, it was something like Joe Wicks or the Kardashians. And I thought that what has that really to do with, restaurants or running business? I can see running businesses with big budgets maybe be interesting, but that's going to dive in today because Michael, who's a guest today, has found a solution about how actually hospitality can get involved with influencers and actually using them in a better way. And I think it's super interesting solution him and the team are bringing to market. So that's why you're here today, Michael. I'm so happy that we made this happen.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry, I'm not Kim Kardashian. Hopefully she'll come on your show one day, but you'll have to do with me today.
I'm actually not sure that after I butchered her name there, that she's gonna come. That's probably
Probably not.
So Michael, tell us a bit about who you are for the people who haven't met you before, because actually you've been around hospitality for some time. You had a past with TrialApp. And what are you guys up to now? Because you're also with Jamie, your co-founder. You're also ex-Trail. You're on a new mission to help hospitality businesses.
We are, yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm Michael Radley, and then my co-founder Jamie Frew. We like you mentioned, we met at TrialApp, which for those who don't know, it's an operations and compliance checklist app. And we were there for a number of years, really. And I think one thing we could take away from our time at Trail, or when Jamie and I met, is like the kind of operational efficiency piece that Trail did really well for operators. I guess we are, in a way, trying to apply that to hospitality marketing. Um, so yeah, I think we're at Trail when we met. I had this idea for Nibble. And the idea has come about from the fact that whilst I was at Trail or in full time work, my kind of side hustle, as it were, was being an influencer, but definitely not on the level of Joe Wicks or Kim Kardashian, more on a micro level, which I'm sure we'll go on to in a minute, talking about the different types of influencers. But many hospitality brands in the industry are working with content creators and micro influencers already, because it is a new way of marketing their brand. It is a new channel, and it's one that's been growing for a number of years. And we only have to look at how well TikTok and Instagram are doing now, and that's where it's a really good way of kind of reaching your customers or potential customers. You know, being front of mind for consumers to make decisions on where they want to go to eat. You know, they're less likely to be reading the Metro these days, and they're more likely to be spending their time on TikTok and Instagram. So the idea for Nibble came about because I was experiencing kind of a bit of a problem in that I was working with brands and working with agencies, and it was great. I would receive a lot of kind of cold emails or messages on social media saying, we'd love you to come down and try the experience and try the food, and we'd love you to post it on your social media channel. And and for me, I kind of started off as just a passionate foodie that loved going out and eating, and I started taking pictures and putting it on my Instagram account, and that kind of organically grew over a couple of years up to around about 20,000 followers, which is why I started to receive more and more invites from brands, I guess. But I'm not alone. There are thousands of other people in a similar position, and there are a lot of brands that are currently working with in this kind of way. So the thing I realized, though, and kind of what led on to Nibble, is like, and I said this to Jamie when we were at Trailers, I didn't quite understand like why it would take so long for like a collaboration between an influencer and a brand to kind of be arranged. And thinking about what it was like on the influencer side, like it could have been a much better experience in that, why couldn't I be out in Soho on a Friday night and see what was available near me in terms of brands and potential collaborations, and I guess be able to book straight in with them. It would actually take, days, if not weeks, for that collaboration to be sorted between, like a brand directly or an agency. And I wanted to make something that was a lot more quick and a lot more easy, with kind of like pre-agreed like arrangements, and yeah, just a much better experience. And I think that's where the idea for Nibble started. Really, it was it's an influencer marketing app on the influencer side, just to have more choice and be a bit more on demand. But we kind of scoped out whilst we were still at Trail, like what that actually looked like from the brand side, and we knew that they were already doing influencer marketing, but still, where we're at now and what we're learning is that there is a lots of different opinions. I guess that some don't have a clue what it is and where to start. Others are kind of doing it themselves, and it's taking up a lot of time. They're reaching out to influencers on social media far too much, hoping to get replies, and then they're kind of dealing with the bookings, the reschedules, the cancellations, and then the follow-ups to make sure they had a good time, and what's the content going to be like. So that is happening. And if a brand isn't doing it themselves, then they're giving it to an agency to do it for them, and I completely understand why, because it is a lot of time and admin for them. So what we learned, having spoken to a few brands, I think this was maybe November last year, is that there was also a bit of a problem, or maybe a solution that sat on the other side of the fence for a brand as well as an influencer. So yeah, we decided that we wanted to really kind of like launch an MVP and test it out, and that's why we both left Trail to do this full time. And I think we were definitely right in that decision, and it's already looking like there's definitely a product market fit and something that people would like to do. So I think where we're at now, from having raised a bit of money at the start of the year to kind of build the product out and get it ready for market, which is where we're at now. We've already got 21 brands using, 25 brands, sorry, using the platform. And that's in a private beta in London. And we've already got around about 350 influencers signed up to the app. So it's definitely going in the right direction, but we really are like early stages and just getting started, really. So lots of exciting stuff ahead.
What made you that super super exciting journey, and then actually seeing how quickly that you actually got your MVP proved in a way, because you both have the influencers and the brands on the app. But why did you call it Nibble? What is the background for that?
Do you know what? I'll be honest. We were just going around and round with different names, but where we're different, I think, and maybe we'll talk about this more in a minute. There's lots of influencer discovery tools and platforms out there, but there's nothing really that's built for hospitality. And that's our background. That's definitely my background. You know, like my brother's a chef. I've worked for nightclubs and bars, and my mum runs a B&B. Like I've been in the hospitality industry, like in a sales capacity for some time, but my passion and love is within hospitality. And I just, whilst I see there's a lot of influencer discovery tools and management platforms, none of it is really built for hospitality businesses that need footfall and bookings. You know, the other tools out there are for the e-commerce giants that kind of, just require transactional stuff online. So we wanted to build something for hospitality, and I think that's where we landed on the word Nibble. I think it leans itself quite well to food and drink, which is where we're at. But it could have been any name, really. I don't know why we ended up on Nibble, but it stands out, and I think that's where we got to, really.
Yeah, well, that's totally okay, because sometimes that's just like I know that finding the name is quite a big thing. You know, what is the name of the business in a way? But what if we take it again? Like, it'd be really interesting to hear as well. What do you think then the vision is for this? You know, what is your vision for Nibble? What is happening? And if we look at a couple of years down, what kind of change have you made, both in for the operators but also for influencers? How would that look?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a couple of things there. I do think influencer marketing, someone needs to kind of educate but also shine a light on it. And there's still a little bit of uncertainty in the industry with, like there's an opinion on influencers that maybe they get a bad reputation. And I'm not sure exactly where that comes from, but I could take a guess that, people expect, free food, and they'll put it on their Instagram or their TikTok. And that isn't really their fault. Like, that has come from somewhere, and that's come from the fact that the people they're following or other people are doing it, and they're like, wow, how are you getting that? Like, what, I want a bit of that. But there's a lot of education to be done on the influencer side in terms of like, what is an influencer? What is required from them that brands can really use to kind of promote their business, and, what's expected in return and what the arrangement is. So I think on the influencer side, there's a bit of an education piece, but we also want to shine a light on what they do. Like, they are, at the end of the day, in full-time work, and their spare time is taken up by being their own social media managers. They're really spending a lot of time on engaging with other accounts and growing their own account. They know the algorithms, they know the trends, they know which audio track and what kind of like is working well on Instagram and TikTok. So really they need to be considered as an extension of a marketing team for hospitality businesses. And there's a lot of money that might be thrown at a photography shoot, which, of course, the quality of the work might be a lot better, but there's a lot of money being thrown at that. And actually, if you think about it, if these influencers are going to take up a lot of their time to come out of their way, and that take a lot of content at the end of the day that brands can repurpose and reuse across their own social media accounts, then they need to have a fair deal, and also like a bit of respect. I think there is, in some cases, not enough respect going towards creators, and there's definitely a shift now with brands starting to understand, I think, that the consumer journey is less of like, show me a picture of a burger. It's more like, show me the burger, but also show me the restaurant. I want the experience. I want to know how someone has got there, and I also want to know that someone has enjoyed it that's similar to me. Are they a foodie in South London, or they're vegan, with a passion for vegan burgers. I think making it relatable and authentic is where brands can really use influencers to their advantage.
What was really interesting is when we've been talking before, Michael, is that what I got my eyes up to, I think first time we talked, was that influencer is not like Joe Wicks I mentioned in the beginning. They are one part of influencer. They are like celebrities, but actually there's a lot of individuals that actually can be almost as powerful from a niche point of view as going out to get a big name, a chef or whatever it is you take through your brand. You're seeing some of the big brands using famous chefs to launch a new burger or whatever it is they do.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, there's definitely different categories, and I think there's again some uncertainty on the kind of definitions of each category. But broadly speaking, you're right. It's not to say that if a brand worked with someone like Joe Wicks or Kim Kardashian, that's the wrong thing to do. I think in many cases it might well be. I think the problem for hospitality brands is that they might not be able to afford to take the risk on how much that would cost them. Like Kim Kardashian did a campaign with Beyond Meat recently. It got a lot of bad press for all the whether it's good press, I don't know, but in it being too staged, too fake. She wasn't actually eating the product she was talking about. And go on YouTube and have a look at it. But I know that deal was a 7-figure deal, and restaurants and pubs and bars can't really afford to put that budget on something like that. So the different categories of influencers, there's celebrity and elite, where they've got massive followings, but they also charge a lot to come work with restaurants or any brand. But where micro influencers fall in, which I don't really, this changes, but broadly it could be anything from, I guess, up to 100,000 followers on Instagram or any social media platform. They tend to be like the sweet spot for smaller businesses, and definitely hospitality businesses, in that it can be a lot more targeted in kind of what you want to do with that influencer and where their audience lies. And there's definitely a shift towards micro influencers. We believe that for hospitality businesses, you can come all the way down and actually think about what's going to be more powerful for my business. Is it going to be like if I was a cafe in, Putney, serving vegan food? Is it worth me taking the risk with someone like Kim Kardashian or a bigger influencer that charges a lot of money? Or could I find a group of, passionate vegan foodies with great content on Instagram and TikTok that actually are South London based, that have kind of an audience that's around there? And that's really going to directly impact brand awareness and potentially bookings and footfall in that area.
And again, if it's like, if you're an operator, so how do I actually make sure I find the right person? I think that's where you guys come in, the curation of these influencers. So what do you actually do to ensure that the influencers, that was 350 you said that you have on the platform now, actually are up for the game, because you're in principle hiring or making a deal with somebody you really want to do a good job in principle?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are just getting started, but we're already starting to kind of bring on influencers that actually the different categories. So matchmaking a little bit better, and that could be by dietary requirements. It could be by content style. I know we were talking the other day, but is actually an influencer a yoga instructor in a particular area? Is it a student, a society secretary for a university in a particular area? Like, we really have to think about the term influencer. And actually, I think when I first started working in nightclubs back then, we called them promoters, and that would be they run a guest list and they've got a particular influence over their society at university. Like, that is an influencer. And I think we have to kind of think differently about what an influencer is really. But in terms of where we come in, it's all around matchmaking the right type of influencer for the right brand, but also that brand's particular strategy. Like, if they're running a campaign 1 month and that's on low and no alcohol, then it's probably not right to matchmake them with a particular influencer that is just drinking a lot of beer and eating a lot of burgers. It might be that we need to think a little bit differently on that. So that's where the matchmaking comes in, and we're building that at the minute, to be honest. But it really is campaign specific, and giving the brands a lot more choice over style and the right type of influencer for sure.
But I wanted to question, if I'm putting my operator hat on, I was thinking as well, like this can be quite expensive, can it? Like finding these influencers. What do I need? Do I need to pay them money, or is it like food, as you talked about? What kind of cost structure is actually in place here? Because I think also there's a lot of people that don't use influencer because they already from the outset think that this sounds like, expensive. I'm not sure on the outcome and all those things.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for anyone not doing any influencer marketing, like in hospitality, if the concerns are this it's expensive, or like I don't have time, they're quite common. I think the time piece is interesting. I think that, and there are influencer discovery tools, but what we've done with Nibble is we've flipped it in that you don't have to spend any time searching for influencers on social media and then reaching out. Actually, the influencers come on to Nibble, and they reach out to you. So really all you have to do at that point, once they apply or reach out to you, is to have a look at their kind of like social media platform, and we've got some data behind their profiles to give you a more of an accurate idea as to whether or not you should work with them or not. At that point, you're pretty much just approving, and then they'll get booked in. So it is saving brands a lot of time, and I think that's where we're really trying to make a conscious effort to streamline that booking and communication process. But in terms of it being expensive, it really does vary. Like there are a lot of influencers at the minute, and I can kind of vouch for this in that I did it for a couple of years on my own. That there's a lot of influencers and a lot of brands already doing influencer marketing that's on a gifted exchange. And actually, as a really passionate foodie, with a certain following on Instagram, I'm really not, bothered about it, charging. If you're willing to kind of have me in and offer me a complimentary meal, and you want me to take some content, post it out to my followers, and offer some recommendations to my followers, like that really is like, I love that, and a lot of people do. It's not to say that everything should be gifted, and I think there is definitely an argument that influencers, based on what they're actually doing, and there's one influencer in particular that we know, that we're talking to at the minute, and she said to me, well, I directly spoke with the brand, and as soon as I came in, I know that I generated £9,000 in sales from my Instagram post. So if that's the case, then there's definitely an argument that influencers should be getting something for that other than just complimentary food. But broadly, there's a lot of micro influencers that are absolutely chuffed with a complimentary meal, and I think that's where brands should capitalize on that. Because if you think about it, a free burger doesn't actually cost you a lot with what you're getting back in terms of marketing. And we've actually worked out that after the gross profit costs of serving an influencer and a friend, perhaps, that actually it's about 10 times more cost effective than other channels, if you really think about it. So it's not, I wouldn't say that it's a very expensive thing. I think it's just a misconception, and it needs kind of educating, or kind of like working out, I think.
What about, like, again, like you can also then, you say, if you are put my CEO hat on, I'm protecting my brand, and marketing came up with this strategy, and I thought, yeah, that sounds all great, but how do we control what they do when they get access to the restaurant, get the free meal? How are they going to represent us? What is your experience with that? Is that just like a fear that actually, you can't control everything, and actually most influencers, actually good behaving people, they're not going to go out and do terrible things?
It's a really good point, actually, and we're noticing a trend on TikTok and Instagram, in fact, where influencers are now starting to be a lot more honest with their reviews. So you have to tread carefully. My thoughts on it is the restaurants really need to think a bit more like about the actual influencer experience. Really make that an enjoyable and an experience that they're going to remember, because then there's not really any fear or any risk of anything going wrong when the content goes out. And the other thing on that is, I think we can get too caught up on, please, when you come in, can you make sure that you're promoting X, Y, and Z, and you're saying this? And I think if we go down that route, it really goes like we're then going into the paid partnership, advertising kind of category. And I don't think that's the way to go. I think it's all around authenticity, honesty, and user generated content that you can give them a steer, but ultimately you want everything to look different and have variety. And the worst thing I think right now for brands is if anyone was to go on their social media, if I had a look down the page and none of the content was relatable to me, and I couldn't get a flavor of other guests or other people going in there and what they've ordered and what it looks like and what their thoughts are, I think that's more of a risk than kind of working with influencers.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think you're right about the that when you want to control the process too much, also the authenticity goes out of it. You can see that when you see things on social media, think, yeah, of course you will say that. You've been paid money to say that, so that why should I actually care, in a way? What is it like, really, like, if I'm thinking as the operator, what is it that the influencers love to do? I think that's a really, really good question now, connection with this. Like, how do they actually how would they like to see their experience is when they engage with this brand? What makes it a great experience for the influencers to connect with the brand and do the thing with them?
It's a really good question, and I think about this a lot, and I do think the way the world is moving with the world being online and everyone obsessing over these short videos on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, I do think generally hospitality brands, and the ones doing really well, and I will name drop a couple of them because they're flying on social media. So the likes of Yorkshire Burrito and Humble Crumble, that started off as a kind of street food stall that no one really knew about. They're racking up some ridiculous stats in terms of views, plays, and followers, and their social media accounts are amazing. And it's that consistency of good content with influencer marketing on the side that it really is just making it front of mind for the consumer. And I was passing Borough Market the other day and went to Humble Crumble for no other reason other than I've seen their videos and it looks great. It's a great product. The videos are brilliant. And that led me there. So I think we've got to start. I think brands can really capitalize on this movement of social media movement of really thinking about their offering and how that can be, like relayed on kind of these video formats on Reels and TikToks. That whilst you might have the most amazing menu in the world that would taste amazing and it'd be brilliant food, if it's not going to photograph well or video well, then that's something to think about for sure. So in terms of what influencers like, if they see anything that's got dry ice, or there's a flower wall, or there's something being set, like anything that's way more the experience or a bit of drama in terms of like what that restaurant is providing, they will want to go there because they know that if they capture content of that will just grow their own social media account themselves. So that's what I believe we're starting to see a pattern in. Influencers like the experiential stuff, which is, I look at brands like Flight Club and Junkyard Golf and places like that. They are very Instagrammable in what they do. And one of our customers, Baldy Balderson, the cocktails are amazing, and the whole experience outside of just food and drink is something that the Gen Zs want to do. And there's definitely a shift in it being much more than just a food and drink offering. What else are you going to do to really attract those Gen Zs? And that's where influencers can kind of like feed that funnel really, and feed their social media feeds with that content.
Yeah, and actually that leads me to the next thing I actually wanted to dive into, because it gives totally sense. There has to be, I have to go there to make some content. I also will make you look good, but also help me growing my profile, because that's, so it's like a win-win thing. But when you work with the operator, you said now you have 21 brands on the platform. What have your learnings been on this journey as you've been taking these brands on, and what kind of, great outcomes has been achieved? Because I guess you are now, after having the platform with them as well, learned some stuff that really really is mind-blowing as well, that what you can achieve as an operator.
I think we're still learning, to be honest. I think the one thing we can really do, and this really depends on the social media accounts, but I think we can definitely get better at it, is really trying to directly link the influencer posts to sales and bookings. And there's things that we're working on. There's things in the product roadmap that will help that. I think that's the big opportunity. But it is definitely an effective way of promoting your brand. And there's things you can do at the minute. You can track your own social media pages, your web traffic when you work with influencers. You can use coupon or discount codes that they can give to their followers, swipe up links. So you can try and make it measurable. I think for us, what we've learned is that we've just built out quite a lot of our reporting. And actually, if you were going to launch a Christmas campaign, for example, and you wanted to work with 10 influencers before Nibble, it's quite hard to find out how many people that's reached, how many impressions that's got, what's the average engagement rate, what's my cost per engagement. And that's something we've just built. And a big shout out to Dan and Jamie on that. I have no involvement in that. But I think what we've seen with the brands that are on the platform is that we are starting to make influencer marketing more of a measurable channel, so that these marketing managers, that are kind of busy with loads of other things, can at least start to justify to the board that if we do a campaign with some influencers, this is what we've seen on social media in return, and this is what it's then done to web traffic or awareness. So I think we could definitely get better. But I think I'm really proud of what we've done in the last few months in making it a little bit more measurable, for sure.
It's also really interesting. You said that you're running a campaign, and then actually, instead of getting one influencer, you now maybe have 10, and you can actually find out which of these, let's say 5 of them, are the one that really drives value. Then you know who to work with next time, because they really work well for your brand. So again, from a marketing manager, your return of investment becomes extremely important. When every pound you spend, you should definitely make a pound.
Absolutely. And that goes back to the point of like types of influencers you should work with. Don't rule out the ones with only 5,000 followers, because on the face value of it, they might not be that great, but actually we've got some stats to show that people with 5 to 8,000 followers, their engagement and the actual return of investment with working with them is actually way more powerful than someone with 50,000 followers. It's crazy. And that's really down to the fact that the social media channels and platforms are changing all the time. And with TikTok in particular, you don't need to have millions of followers for a post to go viral. You just got to know the right type of content to produce. So I think that's changed a little bit, for sure.
Well, that's really interesting as the world evolves. At the moment, what I've noticed as well is in all channels, it's like there's a lot more niche things going on. So it could be that you have a niche product, or maybe you have a product that's out of chickpeas, you make hummus, and there's like these people that just love hummus, and they have this thought, they talk about hummus all the time, and they're like experts in hummus. And then and you look at their profile and you think, well, you only have 1,000 followers, but these 1,000 followers are real raving fans. They just watch everything this person do, and they would go and do some of the same things that this person do.
Absolutely. And it's likely that if they're always talking about hummus and posting about hummus, then of those 1,000, quite a big chunk are also like huge hummus fans. So definitely don't rule out the smaller ones, because they will have a very engaged and, like you said, niche audience. And I think that's where we can actually use the hyper locality of influencers a bit better as well. If I was going to open a new site in a particular area of London, it's like in that catchment area, who's around there? And actually, even if you've got 1,000 followers, but you're already a passionate foodie with a real local audience that's going to impact that new restaurant, then definitely don't rule them out.
Yeah, that's super super interesting, because it's also getting your mindset changed around actually how you use the influencers, but also that that could be even in regional or areas of a city. You will use different influencers for the restaurants in that area if you have multiple restaurants in the city.
Definitely, yeah. And outside of just the influencers piece as well, like we have to also, I mean, there's a lot of talk about what we say, is it influencers, is it content creators? But there is the influencer side and their kind of audience and how much business they can actually give you. But in the most parts, these same influencers are still giving up a lot of their time to really think about carefully about what content they're producing. They're social media managers in their own right, thinking about what do I need to produce here to make this post do well for my own following and my own page. So it's in their interest to make good content that's going to do well. And that's where the brands can benefit from it. Like I said at the start, it's an extension of their marketing team essentially.
Yeah, and I guess they can make even better content sometimes than the brand because they are not restricted in their thinking as the brand is.
Exactly that. User generated content is a big thing we're hearing in the industry at the minute, and that it is for that reason. It's going to be always difficult to kind of talk about your own brand without kind of getting really watertight on your brand messaging and what you want to kind of produce and achieve. And as soon as you get someone else to kind of give their opinion or put their take on it, suddenly, it looks a lot different. So for sure, that's definitely the right way to go.
Next thing I would like to lead into again, Michael, is that it's a challenging time for our industry. We came out of the pandemic, and now there's like even more rising challenge ahead. But how did this actually fit together with I think the question I want to tweak it a bit compared to what I normally do is that I would like to hear how does influencer marketing fits together with the world and the business challenges we have in hospitality right now, because we all know where they are, the rising costs, labor, operational complexity. Now there's also energy has become, even it's not just a cost, energy has just become a challenge as well. Can we run out of energy so we can't actually put on the lights because there's a blackout, and all those things. But how does influencer marketing fit together with that world of all these challenges? There's almost business, the existential things that can happen to businesses over the next year.
Yeah, it's so tough, and I absolutely feel for the industry. It's not a great time, and they've had COVID to battle with, and now it's the most recent kind of challenges. My thoughts on influencers and where they can play a key role. I think what is undeniable is that influencer marketing isn't slowing down. I think it's going to be worth $16 billion by the end of this year, but TikTok and Instagram are still the real key sources of like where you need to be staying front of mind. And it is going to be competitive out there. And I think unless you're really capitalizing on your own social media presence, then you will get left behind. So influencers play a big part in that. And unfortunately, even though there are challenges, I think brands will have to fight a little bit harder. And the way they can do that is really nailing their social media. I think in terms of influencers and generally just marketing, like we've spoken about kind of when I broke down the cost of influencer marketing, I think it's definitely a time where brands will have to look at their budget, their marketing budget, and it's definitely not going to be what it was, and there might be loads of amazing creative things that brands want to do, but just the money just isn't there, and I completely get that. So I think with influencers, really scaling it back to thinking about if I invited a content creator and I'm aware by having a look at the stats, we can help them with that it is going to give them a return in brand awareness, and really start to think about how much does it actually cost me to invite an influencer in versus something else within my marketing remit that might be like that might be spend elsewhere that is a bit more risky and is a lot of money. So I do believe it is a cost-effective solution of marketing for restaurants right now. But appreciate like it is super super tough. But yeah, my thoughts on it is now is a time where you cannot afford to be falling behind on social media. No way.
Yeah, it's super interesting because also in times of when things are difficult, the most important thing is to keep communicating and engaging with your fans, I guess. And
Yeah, and that's also another thing on that is like we know now there's definitely data to suggest that diners are now eating out less. Um, the cost of living crisis has gone up. And actually, even myself, like I've gone from eating out maybe like 2 or 3 times a week to maybe just thinking about it a little bit more strategically of like, what can I actually afford? And that really kind of like presents itself with a problem there of like, if I'm going to go out less, then I'm going to pick somewhere that really I am like really excited about. And it has to be more than just, like a picture I've seen on Instagram or like a menu that I've seen online that looks great. It really needs to be, I gave you the example of Humble Crumble. Like that is front of mind. Like if I was to kind of like just walk away from down the road now and think, where are you next going to go in London? It's going to be those brands that I'm just watching videos and videos and videos of, when I'm just sat scrolling on TikTok and Instagram throughout the day. And I think because, there is definitely less of a budget for people to kind of go out, then like I said about the experiential thing, I think brands have really got to think more about their social media content, but also more about their offering of it being an experience just outside of food and drink, for sure.
Yeah, that's a super interesting point you have there, because I think we all are thinking more about where we spend our hard-earned money right now, and it's gonna be a more strategic decision than ever before, for definitely for a period going ahead. I wanted also to ask you a couple of questions about you and the business and so on, but like that as you launched the business in probably one of the most toughest time to launch a business, but what has been most significant learning as a human, and now you're a business owner leader in the last 2 years as you've been taking this off the ground?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I kind of only 6 months in. I think really the idea came about a couple of years ago, but really we'd only been kind of like full time in the last 6 to 12 months, really. So, still learning. What am I learning? Yes, I think co-founder life is tough. It really is tough. So the dream about being your own boss isn't quite what it's cracked up to be. To be honest, I'm wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of things, but actually, what I'm learning about that is I think, and probably more co-founders that are way more established than I am or our business will probably vouch for the fact that I think you really got to get stuck in and do everything and test and learn a lot. And I think that hopefully will set me up moving forward. And when it comes to hiring, I'll really understand each role a lot more and how much goes into kind of each little thing. So that's definitely one thing I've learned. So yeah, it's of course it's exciting. There's those little like moments where brands give you great feedback, and I think back to kind of like the really really dark times over the last year, and I don't think brands quite know like how that one comment would really like make me well up. So there's the highs are high, the lows are low, and that's really my learnings on it so far. But it is super exciting, and I'm really like just chuffed with what we've done so far, and excited because I know we're only just getting started, and there's plenty more we can do for sure.
How do you deal with the high and lows? Like, how do you actually show up as the best version of you as a founder? Because it's so interesting. You're 6 months in this full time, and I just know this entrepreneurial journey is like it's like one thing after the other. It never stops. And you said like, and you have multiple hats, and there's like areas you're thrown into where you've never ever been before, where you just think, I have no bloody clue about this. You start with Googling it, and then you find out, wow, I know nothing.
Yeah, it's so true. To me, I don't know. Like, there's definitely like coping mechanisms you do. Like, I've just completed the London Marathon, so
Ah, well
that
done.
was that was one that, yeah, just got over the line. But that was one thing that, like for headspace was keeping me a bit on track. I had something else to kind of do, and that kind of physical, like, fitness element definitely helped from a mental point of view. I would say like it's, we get told this all the time speaking to other founders, like try and enjoy it. And it is so hard, especially when it gets tough. But I do get where they're coming from. You've got to smile at, and take the wins. And we've got one thing that we're doing at the minute, which I really vouch for, is that when you do make mistakes, when you do make errors, when you do find things that kind of happen, like we keep a document on file, which is like every time there's like a a bit of an error or something really badly goes wrong, try and make a joke of it, and we're actually saving them all to like an album. I'm hoping that in years to come it'll almost be like a catalogue of bloopers, which will be funny to look back on. So yeah, we've got to try and enjoy it, and ultimately just keep going. Like what we're doing, we're on a mission to make it a lot easier for brands and make influencer marketing like just a bit more of a known, understandable thing. So we're still motivated on that train, but I'm sure it will be a rocky road. But yeah, I've got a smile on my face, and yeah, just massive shout out to all of the brands that have kind of like are using the platform and kind of like see the vision and what we're doing, and we wouldn't be where we're at already without their help. So it means a lot.
That was very, very nice of you, and I also loved your list of blunders, if we call them that, or like, why did we actually do that? That's absolutely
I'll have to
crazy.
share them with you.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's just having the discipline to put that down as well, because it's really important not to take it too serious, because in the end of the day, it's just business. And most, even if people are critical of what you're doing, or finding out that you didn't take the right step, if it's investors or it's some kind of other stakeholder, you should just say, it's just about saying, oh yes, thank you for giving me that feedback, and then go and correct it, and then you're actually absolutely fine. That's the only thing they want in the end. And same with clients, they still believe in you, even though if you do one thing wrong. We are not perfect. We're human beings, all of us.
Oh, we are. And we're definitely in that research and discovery phase. I mean, we touched upon it, but we're just about to launch now, and we've come a long way. But we've got to be, remembering that actually we can't, that we're not going to transform a massive, huge business overnight. It's going to take time, and, there's going to have to be learnings along the way. And we're definitely still kind of I'd say we're coming out the other side of that now. We've definitely learned a lot, but ultimately we'll always be learning and testing new things, and you just got to enjoy that startup world. I guess it's very challenging, but also it's definitely not dull.
No, I can remember a very experienced business person said to me, enjoy that bit of the journey, because you wish yourself back to that in some years. And that's really interesting. So he's already done it all a couple of times. And that's the best part for an entrepreneur, is the early days before all the complexity arises as the business grows.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows where we'll be in a few years, but I'm sure we'll listen back to this and have a laugh to ourselves, I'm sure.
Is there a question you would have liked me to ask you, and what would that be, and what would you have answered?
I don't know. Do we need to do like a what's next thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what's next for you guys? You're talking about a launch.
Yeah, so we, like I mentioned, we're in a private beta in London. There's 25 brands I think now using the platform, and we're still growing up that marketplace from both sides. But we're starting to now think about scaling regionally around the UK, and there's been lots of interest in cities like Leeds, Liverpool, and Manchester. We will get there, and thanks for your patience for those we're already talking to. But that's super exciting. Like starting to see the demand just outside of London is really exciting for us, and so that's definitely next for us to do. And there will be a point, I'm sure, where we'll be raising money at the start of next year to really scale the brand. But for now, we're just going to keep growing and kind of filling up that marketplace and trying to get the best value we can out of the app for influencers and for brands as well.
Great, Michael. Where can people find out more about Nibble, and connect with you guys, even if you're not in their town yet, but they want to look into this and hear more about it?
Yeah, definitely reach out. So you can find us on we're nibbleapp.com, and we're also Nibble app on TikTok and Instagram. But yeah, please feel free to reach out. And at the minute, because we are pre-launch, we are offering a free trial period to any brand that does want to kind of see for themselves what Nibble's about, and we'd love to talk to people for sure.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Michael, and I wish you and the team power and energy for the exciting journey ahead.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Chat soon.
I really appreciate that you're listening in. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, please share with others or give us a review or subscribe to one of our channels, which all can be done via the website hospitalitymavericks.com. A big thank you to BizSimply for supporting us, bringing great insights, strategies and tools to help leaders become better every day. Check them out at bizsimply.com or on their social at BizSimply or BizSimplyHQ. You can also email them directly at podcast@bizsimply.com. Thank you to Fina Charlton, who is the show producer from the Podcast Collective. If you have any feedback or ideas to the show or thoughts, reach out to me via LinkedIn or my email, michael@hospitalitymavericks.com. Find out more about us and subscribe to the newsletter Maverick Talk via hospitalitymavericks.com. I'm Michael Tingsam, and you've been listening to the Hospitality Maverick podcast show. Be Maverick.